Welcome. Today we're going to automate with AI-powered automation. We're going to build agents or bots, as Ivan, who's with me here, calls them. I have the leading tool ElectroNeek for AI-powered automation with me. They sponsor this session and they send me their best expert. Welcome, Ivan Ramos.
Thank you, Anders. Thanks,
And
everyone.
welcome to you out there who's watching the session. Whatever you see or hear today, place a question in the chat and I will make sure that we will answer it during the session. So even we're going to build a lot of cool stuff today. First of all, can you introduce yourself and ElectroNeek and then we will start building?
Right, of course. Thank you, Anders. My name is Ivan Ramos. I'm a solutions engineer here in ElectroNeek, and I've been working around automation in starting with macros, then moving on to RPA, and then specializing in AI for the last 7 years. And yeah, ElectroNeek is really at the forefront of automation with ElectroNeek, with AI, and these. Today's session will be especially focused on that. It will be focused on, how to build bots with the Easley AI features of the platform that leverage OpenAI's GPT language model. We'll be talking about basically what these features are, how to access them, how to check your usage, and some examples of how to use them, of course, both integrated and also standalone. And we're also going to take a look at a training course that we have in our platform for people who are interested in learning how to use these bots with AI features. And then at the end, we'll talk about how you can get access to these tools right away.
And let me mention that you can download ElectroNeek for free, the community version. It's all
Exactly.
free with all the features. So everything we do here today, you can download. I'll post a link in the chat in 2 minutes, and that can get you started and copy whatever Even does today. Even, the stage is yours.
Perfect. Thank you, Anders. So let's get started. Let's first open up the electronic homepage. This is where we'll get access to our account portal, and we'll be able to start talking about the different products that compose the electronic platform. We'll be focusing specifically on the AI features. So let's log in. And this takes us over to our account portal. So first of all, as a quick introduction to those who may not be familiar with the ElectroNeek platform, we divide our products between hubs. And these hubs are different centers of features in our platform. The two main ones right here, as you can see, are the automation hub and the service hub. The automation hub contains all the tools for building intelligent automations and also deploying them later on once you have built them. And very briefly mention a couple of them. And then Service Hub is most related to getting support on the platform, getting learning resources and documentation, amongst other things. Within the Automation Hub, the core of the platform, the main three pillars are Studio Pro, Bot Runner, and Orchestrator. These are the tools that will allow you to, first, with Studio Pro, build these bots. This is a local Windows application that we'll be using throughout this course, throughout this session, to build these bots. This is a low-code, drag-and-drop based workflow-like environment. So we'll be creating the bots as visual workflows. Then Bot Runner on the other end will run these bots. This is a lightweight agent that also runs on Windows that once your bot is built, your workflow is done, you publish it, you export it, and you run it right here in Bot Runner. And Orchestrator is sort of a bridge between these two. It's a tool that allows you to publish the bots that you have built in Studio Pro and then deploy them to Bot Runners. And Bot Runner is unlimited. It has no cost. So you have the ability to deploy your bots to as many machines and as many of your internal computers or your customers' computers, if you're selling these bots, as you need.
And maybe I should interrupt you and mention that all this is built with almost no code. We're using the AI today,
Yes.
so we use our own words to build these things. And also the setup is very, very simple. There's wizards for everything. We can just click next, next, and then everything is set up. Believe me, I tried it myself.
Exactly. We'll be using natural language for everything that we do today. Of course, a power user does have the ability to enter code into the platform, and we'll take a look at that. But it's not required. It's not necessary. And you even have an AI-powered tool that will generate code for you based on a request. It will not only have the ability to do the steps themselves, but if you do need the code at the end of the day, you will have an assistant for that. So that takes me to these last three parts of the platform right here. What we have is we have IntelliDocs, Easley AI, and IntegraBots. These are the three main components that we have added to the platform recently. And just to give a quick introduction to IntelliDocs and IntegraBots, which we won't be focusing on today, these are our IDP solution, that's IntelliDocs, that's a solution for intelligent document processing. And then we have IntegraBots, which is our solution for integrated platform as a service, basically our way to run bots entirely on the cloud. But today, we'll be focusing mostly on Studio Pro, where we'll be building these examples, and then Easley AI. Easley AI is our suite of AI-powered features for automation. These tools are both for powering the building of these bots and making it faster and making it simpler, and also to give the bots themselves and the workflow logic more options, even in more power to do things that bots in the past were not able to do by themselves. In the past, some aspects of what the bots today can do would have been done by adding a human in the loop or involving human decision. Nowadays, there's far more ways to have the bots themselves solve these problems using AI features. So let's take a look at the Easley AI module right here. If we take a look at it, what we see here inside the platform itself is mostly a usage page, a consumption page, but this will give us a quick introduction into our four main features of the Easley AI suite, which we'll be using in a moment. So first, we have text to workflow, also called workflow assistance. What this tool will allow us to do is, just like you said, Anders, we'll be able to give a natural language description of what we want our workflow to do. And then the Easley AI will interpret that instruction, that natural language instruction, and it will create a workflow for us. That workflow will be editable by us. We will be able to fully customize it. We'll be able to copy it, add on top of it. It will be the same as if we had built it, but of course it will be faster. Some flows that might have taken hours to build out with different logic, this will be generated in seconds for us. And since this is a tool that is useful during development and is only used during development, the consumption of credits within the platform is only done once. Every time that you use it, that consumes credits, but when you run that bot that you created, the AI, you're not consuming any credits at all. It's only consuming credits when it's assisting you actively during development.
And I can tell you've been away on vacation even. You have around 199,000 credits or 1 million credits to use in the last week of the month.
Yeah, no, definitely. And of course, this is the first week that I've been back at work and doing stuff again. And so this is actually, this will get filled up very quick, don't worry. And as for the second feature right here, the code generator, or also called code assistance, that's also a tool to help out during development. And as I mentioned, this is a tool that allows you to give natural language instructions to Easley AI about what sort of code you need. And in some cases, you will know that you will need code in your bots, mostly if you're, for example, transforming data from one format to another, or you're in need of parsing some sort of type of data to another type. In most cases, you will be able to simply use low code or no code activities for your steps. But when you do need code, you don't need to know a specific language. You don't need to go and search the web and start navigating all the different possible solutions. You just tell the code generator or the code assistance tool, this is what I need. This is input data. This is how I want this data to look by the end of my code. And that code will be generated for you. So that's another great tool for assisting you during development and speeding up development, and also lowering that bar of entry for developers who might not have some specific development skills and will be able to build bots more efficiently and faster with these tools. And then we have two additional tools that are actually activities that are added to Studio Pro, and we'll take a look at them in a moment, that will add more power to your bots, basically. These are engines or tools that you can give to your bots to communicate with AI during execution to perform a specific task. So Ask AI is basically giving the power to your bots to talk to basically a version of ChatGPT. It's not the public instance of ChatGPT, but you're talking to the GPT engine, and you have the ability to perform any request or question or prompt to that engine and get the response back so that your bot can consume that response and act accordingly. This can mean you can ask it for a question, you can ask it to make a decision for you, you can ask it to create content, to generate something for you. That this could be creative content, derivative content from a source of data, like an executive summary, for example. And we'll actually take a look at one example of that. So anything that you need your bot to do, but you don't want to involve a human. Traditionally, if you wanted to take a look at a table of data, for example, and create a summary out of that, that would have been a very human task. You would have needed to send out that data from your bot to a human, wait for that human to generate that summary, and then incorporate that at the end of your bot workflow. But now with this, the bot can simply ask an AI to do it. And edit text at the end of that. It's a very similar activity, with the main difference being that instead of being a more free-form question asking engine or prompt-based engine, you will have to enter an input text and an instruction of how you want to transform or edit that text. That could be translation, could be summarization, it could be making it more complex, making it simpler, turning it into a poem, whatever you need really, or anything that you want to take a text and turn it into something else, that will be done with edit text. Of course, you can also do it with Ask AI, but edit text is a more specialized activity specifically for transforming a piece of text into another one via an instruction. So those are the four main features of Easley AI that we'll be taking a look now with a couple of practical examples. And of course, right here, you can take a look at your usage within the platform, know which ones you're using more, which ones less, how many times you've used them. And also remember to keep in mind that the first two, the workflow assistance and the code assistance, are development resources, so they help you during development. But Ask AI and Edit Text do consume credits while the bots are running. So if you run a bot that includes an Ask AI activity 1,000 times, for example, that will mean 1,000 consumptions of credits within Easley AI for that specific activity. So because the bot itself is communicating with AI every single time that the bot is running. Of course, if that's how your logic handles it. You could always put that activity within a branch logic, and it will not always go to that step. But you have full freedom of how to determine that, how to set that up.
Okay, I can't wait to see it in action. Even I know I've seen it before, but I always love these live builds by you. So yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Anderson. Yeah, this concludes the talking part. We'll now move on to the doing part. So let me go to Studio Pro, and we'll start with the actual building. Okay, so let's start with Studio Pro. As we mentioned, Studio Pro is our development environment, and this is where we'll be building these bots. This is a low-code drag-and-drop based environment. And as soon as you open it, you will notice that you have these four options. So you can work with an existing project or create a new one. A project basically means a folder where you're building a bot and incrementally building on top of it. So that's for a more consolidated bot that you want to build on. Playground is for demos and something that you want to build quickly and just to show around and to test something quick or run something quick. But then you have the Create New with Easley AI button. This is a new button we have added that allows you to start creating, but instead of start from an empty canvas as you would with the Playground mode, if you click that, it's basically an empty canvas and you need to start adding your activities from the get-go. With Create New with Easley AI, you have the ability to start typing in your prompts, your natural language instructions about what you want your bot to do.
That looks so cool. Even when you create flows, what's the proportion of times you start with this Easley AI? I think it was started with it like 100% of the times.
Yeah, at this point, it's even when I know that maybe since it's at a beta stage at the moment, it might not support everything that I want to do in my bot from the get-go. This is extremely useful to get that initial structure started. And that's something I want to mention as well. We don't want to look at this as replacing a developer. This is a tool to go from 0 to I don't know, let's say 50, 70, 60, even if it's just 20, 30, 40%, it goes to that in a couple of seconds instead of taking minutes, hours even to get there. It's an extremely useful tool for that. So really at this point, it's the default way to start a bot. When you know what you need to do, you just type in, okay, this is the logic that I want for my start. I want to check a certain value or want to open a certain file. Of course, then I will need to go in and customize the actual paths of the files and any data that I don't specify here, but that template, that structure is built for me. And that's extremely useful because I can then replicate it, customize it. I can put it into a subprogram like a module that I can then reuse. At this point, it's the default way to start a bot, honestly. But of course, you have the other ones as well.
Nice.
Perfect. So before we start using this, let's take a look at our example use case. So right here in my desktop, I have a list of companies right here, companies.csv. Let's take a look at it right here. This is a list of 20 companies, basically, with their names, which are conveniently, they have the same initial. So we'll be able to take a look at them later and realize which ones we have and which ones we don't. And their values, basically, we can think of this as revenue values for the 4 quarters of 2023. Of course, these are made up companies, made up values, but this is a type of data that one might encounter. Financial data next to company identifier data, like their names, IDs, or any other type of information. So what we'll do with this information is we'll have a bot read it, then add extra information to it, and we'll take a look at 2 different ways in which we can do that. In this case, that extra information will be a new column at the end that will add these 4 quarters into a total column. And then we'll actually perform an extra modification on it, which will be, we will filter out all the companies that made less than $1 million in 2023. So some of these will have a total below 1 million, and we'll want those gone. And we'll only work with the ones that have more than 1 million. And then with that information at hand, we'll actually send out an email, but we won't just include the raw data in that email. We'll generate a summary, an executive summary of that data that can be useful for a manager or a CFO or somebody who just wants the specific points of what's going on with this data. And we'll actually format that data in a specific way using the edit text activity as well. So that will be our use case right here. And let's take a look at how we can build the Easley AI interactions. So we have a couple of slides right here that we'll take a look at. So first of all, we'll want to describe our prompts or our instructions to the Easley AI workflow assistance or the workflow generator. As you can see, our bot will basically consist of 6 steps. And what we see here is that on the left, on the green side, we have the steps that we would need to have manually added via dragging activities and thinking of the logic and performing some steps. That would have been our step-by-step of building this bot, our tutorial to build this bot. That's on the left. So first we would have needed to create a variable and assign a value to it. That would be, let's think of this as a multi-report type situation where we could have different types of report generated. This time we will only generate a report called largest by revenue, basically. But we will add an if condition to check if that's the report we want to work on. And then we can expand that with other types of reports. Then we will need to add an activity to read the data. And then we would need to write code or add other activities like loops, for example, to convert that data that's in CSV format to a table, basically an array, then add that column at the end that we mentioned, and then filter out the totals. As we mentioned, we only want to keep those above 1 million, so we want to filter out those that are below 1 million. So that would be what we have need to do manually when we build this bot. And if we just translate those steps into natural language requests, as if we were instructing one of our colleagues, this is what I want you to build for me, that's what we get on the right. We have short, simple sentences that describe what we need to do in each one of those steps. Assign a report type variable, check if it contains a certain text. If not, log a failure message. That's of course optional. If yes, read a CSV file, save it to a variable, then convert it, add a totals column, and then finally filter out the totals below 1 million. So basically exactly what we would have done. We are telling ourselves, okay, this is how I would describe it to somebody else. And with that, we build our prompt. So this right here, this is just a combination of all that text on the right. And we can now copy all of this and bring it over here to Studio Pro, paste it here as a prompt, select one of these two options. The first one is great to create a standalone bot that we can then reuse. But if we just want to show it here on the canvas and start building on it, then we will use the second one. So we select that and then click Build Workflow. And then in a matter of seconds, our workflow will be generated for us following these exact instructions that we just typed in basically as natural language instructions. So there we have it. As we see, we have the steps that we described. First, we are assigning a report type variable. I even gave it the name this time, but if we haven't given it a name, the bot would have assumed a name that makes sense in the context of that. And it's even explaining to us what it's doing in the comment field right here. Then it's checking if the value is the one that we expected. And this is where we would have the ability to keep adding if conditions to check other report types, for example. This time we're just focusing on one. In the case of the report type not being the one we want, we are logging an error message, just as we expected and as we indicated. In the case that it is, we're going to be reading that file. Of course, the AI did not know the path to my file, so it just put in a placeholder, but we will be able to change that. Then that data will be saved to a variable right here, CSV data. And then that data will be first translated into a table, as the comment explains. Then we'll have a totals column added at the end. And as you can see, there's some small piece of code here that we did not need to write at all. We just specified what it is that we want, and this was created for us. And then at the end, we will have a new table called filter data that will be the original data, but filtered out with only the values with the total above 1 million remaining. So that's exactly what we asked for. And we don't need to believe this code or know if it works or not. We can just select that file and actually run a quick test and see if everything worked as we expected. So let's do that. Let's click the play button.
And while it runs, this code, what language is that if we want to learn more?
That's in JavaScript, actually.
But we can... Oh, sorry, but we can let AI handle it for us, so we don't need to use code at all. We can just type it in with our own words. But it's nice to know that if we wanted to fix a thing.
No, yeah. It's very important to mention that in our platform, while you don't need to type in JavaScript, you can always use the assign value to variable activity with the calculate a value option. To take a value that's in a specific variable or in whatever format it is, and apply JavaScript code to it to transform it, apply methods such as replace, split, or anything else that we want to do. While there's other methods to do it within the platform. For example, if we want to replace values, we can do that. If we want to extract values, we have extract text value activity right here. So we have other methods of doing it, but for advanced users that manage code on their day-to-day work, and they know that they can solve this quickly via code, they have the option of typing that in. They can ask the workflow generator or workflow assistance tool to do it for them, just like we saw. And also, this gives me a great opportunity to mention the code assistance feature, which, as I mentioned, will generate code for me based on what I need. So let's say that instead of having created this via the workflow assistance, I wanted to, or maybe the filter data, I wanted to have the code assistance tool do it. Then we would have just pointed to the filter data. And instead of having to write any of this code or know what we do, we just click the Easley AI code assistance button right here. And all it asks for in order to generate that code for us is, first, where do you want to save this value? And of course, that would be filter data. Next, what is your input variable? So that would be, in this case, the table data right here. And we can call this, this is a array with the total values at the end. Or in actually, let's say this would be the sixth column. There we go. And then we just give the instruction. We can just say, filter out all the rows of this array, all its table, that have a total below 1 million. So that's a very simple description of what we have and what we want. And if we click send here, a piece of code for that will be created for us right here. And then we have the ability to copy this and use it, and then just click this button and paste it directly. When it includes this equal part, we can just remove it because that's implicit in this activity. But yeah, this is basically how we'll be able to, of course, this code might not be exactly the same as the previous one, but that really depends on how we describe and how we ask. But in both cases, this will perform the same task. This will take the table data and filter it out and put the result in filtered data. And these are the two different ways in which you can ask a bot to do it, to do something, and it will use code to solve that for you. You can do it in an individual step within your bot, or you could do it at the beginning when you're creating your bot and when you're defining the structure and the steps of your bot. As you can see, in both cases, the Easley AI will understand your request and use the best tools for it, the best code for it. It will just, the main difference between these two is, one's more general. If you know from the get-go what you need to do, you can ask at the beginning. And if while building the bot, you want to add more steps to it that would require code, this code assistant tool will be great for that.
Yeah, how much variation will there be in output? So if we send this prompt in like 10 times, would it be the same code blocks that it generates and with the JavaScript in, or can we see those vary?
So as all generative AI, it is not deterministic. So we will not, it does not have, or in its own brain, it does not have one correct answer for every single question that you ask. We did set up what it's called the temperature of this AI very low, so the variance is very low. But if you give the same instruction, it is expected to give you basically the, if not the exact same code, a variation that will work the same way every single time. Of course, if you change your prompt, if you specify a different column number, or instead of saying the 6th column, I had said the last column, then it would have done something similar to this, where it does the length -1. Of course, it can only generate something or generate code based on what you tell it, based on the context that you give it. And in some cases, it would use a certain method like this one, .filter. In this case, it used the Lodash library, which is included within Studio Pro, so it knows the libraries that it has access to, and sometimes it leverages them, sometimes it doesn't. For example, if you work with dates, it usually leverages the Moment.js library, which is also included. In all cases, it will know what it has at hand. It will take all the context of what you gave it, and it will try to generate its best possible response for that. In some cases, if you do it in two separate ways like this, you will get the same code, sometimes not, but the result will be the same because it understood your request. And if you gave it good context, then it will have generated exactly what you needed. So in terms of the exact code, in my experience, if you just open up Code Assistance and give it the same instruction and click send multiple times without changing anything, it does generate the same code 9 times out of 10. Maybe the 10th time it just adds a comment, or maybe it changes the syntax slightly, but it is expected to be very low. But of course, we cannot guarantee that it will be the same every single time, because that's in the nature of generative AI, particularly the GPT engine.
And let me repeat that you can download everything for free and get started. So everything you see today and a whole lot more, that is free. I'll post a link on the screen and in the chat right now to get you started. And back to you, Ivan.
Perfect. Yeah, no, and we can run this again, but while we were talking, I had already run this bot, so we can see that it finished successfully a couple of minutes ago. And we can see the values right here on the variables tab. So let's take a look at them. First, we have the CSV data. This is exactly how the data was read from the file. So this is just a plain text, string that is just the CSV, but translated into a variable. Then we have table data, which is the data converted to a table, and then with the totals column added at the end. So here we have it. We have company Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, and then the totals column right here with the totals. And we can already see that some of them are above 1 million and some are not. I actually created this data set to specifically alternate between 1 million and below 1 million and so on. So we'll see that in the end result, the names will alternate as well. If we go over to filter data right here, we'll have the company A basically included, B won't, C is included, D is not, E is, and so on. And this is a good way of, for me to quickly know that this code has worked correctly. And if we go to the end of the table, the result column, we can see that indeed all of those totals are above 1 million. So the code did exactly what we asked. And of course, this means that we have our end data as we needed it. And of course, just a quick reminder that while there is code involved in this bot, we did not write any of it. We just described in natural language what it is that we needed. And in some cases, the bot knew that it could do it without a code. For example, reading a text file, saving it to a variable, checking an if condition, assigning a variable. But the transformations that it deemed that, yeah, this needs code, then it applied it, but it did not ask us to input any code or write it at all. It did it for us, knowing that ElectroNeek supports the writing of JavaScript code, of short code like this, inside the assigned value to variable activity. So it did it all by itself by knowing the tools at its disposal and leveraging them in the best way possible to fulfill the tasks that you asked for. Great.
Awesome.
So let's now add a couple more steps right here to finish out this quick demo. So we already have the table. The table is ready. It's already filtered. But let's say that we now want to generate new content out of that table. We want to add an executive summary to this bot. We want to take this data and have an AI write a very quick summary for us to send to a manager or to whoever we want. That's where the Easley AI activities will come in. And as we mentioned, these are tools that add more power to the bots, and these are added as activities to the bot. So if I drag in the Ask AI activity right here, the bot will, when it runs, it will go through here. And when it reaches the Ask AI activity, it will interact with the GPT engine to perform the question that I asked. And this time the question will bid it out like this. Usually we recommend a structure similar to this one, where you first tell the AI to simulate a persona. In this case, a financial analyst, of course, who would do this task? That's the question. Then the task itself, we explain that you receive a table with the following data with quarterly revenue for some companies and their total annual revenue. We will include the data itself in that prompt, so the AI has the full context of what is it that it's analyzing. And then the goal itself will be to analyze this data in order to provide a couple of insights: the top earner, the average annual revenue, and what was the best quarter if you add up all the companies. And then we actually format this output. This is optional, of course. If you don't include this last part, the AI will find the best way to return that to you, depending on the context of what you asked. But if you format the output at the end and you say, this is exactly how I want this data to be returned to me, the AI will abide by that. It will respect that. So in this case, we ask it to summarize this in a single paragraph of no more than 50 words. And that's exactly what the AI will do. This is, of course, just one example of a structure. Many different companies and many different teams, and you will likely find out there teams or AI influencers that recommend different or have different tips for different structures. Really, you're free to try out all of them. This is just a recommendation that we follow and that we have found a lot of success in, where you're breaking down, what role does the AI need to take, what it is that it needs to do, and how do you want this returned. This is you could consider a basic and very compact structure. Some people build like super prompts that include a lot of different steps, but of course keep in mind that the more context and the more instruction that you give to the AI, the more possibility for variation it will be. So the shorter that you make it and the more concise that your instruction is, the more objective, or the more, I wouldn't say deterministic, but the more reliable that response will be from the AI. So we have our prompt right here. This is just the text that we saw at the top here, but turned into a string. And we can bring this here over to the Ask AI activity. And the way that we write it like this and not just directly a set a value is that we need to include a variable with the table data. Otherwise, it would just be text, and we could just type it in directly and no problem. But since we are adding the data from the table that is calculated and created in real time, that would be filtered data, then we actually want to use the calculate a value option, because that's what allows us to put in a variable in here. So this is the same prompt that we saw. We just include that variable. As for the temperature, as I mentioned before, this is a key value that we use when we work with AI. This determines how creative do you want your AI to be when performing this specific task. If you're generating content for social media or a blog post or something like that, it's always good to take this up, maybe to 75, 80, 85, even 90%, or closer to 100. But when you're working with more deterministic tasks where you don't expect too much variation, where you want the AI to make a more concise and more objective decision, or something that that a human would do similarly, and not doesn't involve too much creation, then we recommend keeping it low, and that's why we use 17% as our standard, as our default value. Because this is a good value that we have found works very well with RPA cases. In many cases, when AI is involved with RPA, those values are, those tasks are more objective, or more, we want them to be less, have less variety. So that's why we settle on that number. But of course, you're free to change it every single time if you wish to. And we do recommend that you play around with it, mostly when you're working with creative content, like for social media, for example. And then we just check in this option, show text output only, so that the end result that is saved to this variable, Ask AI content, it will just be the text that the AI will reply to us. It will just be the paragraph that we asked for at the end. If we don't check this option, we will get some technical details about the request and the tokens consumed and other stuff that we don't really need here. So that option is there to just isolate specifically what we want. And that's what we'll do. And that will be sent in here into the Ask AI content variable. But then let's actually add one more step to take this data, this executive summary that will be a paragraph, and let's make it even shorter. Let's turn it into a bullet point list, and let's actually format it to HTML so we can send it in an email. And this is taking one text that was generated and transforming it into something else. So as we mentioned before, this is a great task to use edit text on, which is our other Easley AI activity. So we will drag it in, and the way that we'll build our instruction here is like this. So edit text is very simple. It's we don't need large instructions or large pieces of context. We are just providing the original text. Then an instruction, which in this case will be just to turn this into a bullet point list formatted in HTML. And just like that, very simply, the result will be a version of that executive summary, but formatted into bullet points, and it will be structured in HTML. So we will be able to put it in the body of an email message. So that's what we'll do right now. Let's add in the edit text. The input is just the Ask AI content variable, so we can save the previous step result. The instruction itself will be to turn this executive summary into a bullet point list formatted in HTML for an email. Then the temperature, 17%, that's good for us. and we will use show text output only again, so that the end result is stored here in the edit text content variable. And finally, we'll just send out an email with that. So let me drag in the send email activity. I'll use my own email settings, which are already set up as credentials. I'll send that email to myself. As for the subject, in this case, I'll just call this company data analysis. And the mail body will be the edit text content. It will just be that variable outright, just as it was generated. And if we want, we can add the attachment with the original data. But of course, that's just for additional context. And there we have it. This is our full workflow. We can now run this. And at the end, we will not only be able to see the variables right here on the right, but we will actually get a concrete result. We will be that email being sent to my address. So let's give it a run and wait a couple seconds.
This guide, even where do we find that? This Google slide, Google Docs.
Right. No, this is something that I just built for showing off in this in these presentations. But actually, that gives me a good pointer to mentioning that we do comment about how to create these prompts and how to work with these activities in one of our product training courses, which is located in electroneek.com/product training. These trainings are open to everyone, and they include far more content than just what I'm going to mention now. But we do have a dedicated GPT AI engineer course right here that covers all of these activities and basically also gives tips and recommendations about how to build these prompts. The ones that I just show you are examples, are not publicly available. You're free to pause the video afterwards and replicate them and copy them to your heart's content. No problem there. But we don't have them as public resources at the moment. These are just illustrations of how we built these prompts. But I do recommend that course because it basically covers the same principles that we use to build those prompts and to interact with those tools. So that's something I also wanted to mention during this session.
Great, thank you.
Perfect, no problem. And now we should actually already have our email sent out. So let me open that up. And there we go. We have the company data analysis email, the attachment, of course, right here, and then the 3 bullet points with the insights that we asked for. First, who has the highest total annual revenue? That would be Ivory Investments. And if we go back to the table, we can probably confirm that. We can see that the highest value is this might be right here. Okay, that might have mixed up, but we can see that it has generated the insights that we asked for, and it asks us the total annual revenue for a value, the total values annual revenue for all companies, and then the best quarter. Of course, in this case, some of the numbers are incorrect, might because now that I think about it, I did not send in the table as string. I should have added that, but in this case, it did not send the data correctly. That was my bad. I should have fixed that. But in this case, it generated the structure of the data that we needed. It just did not use the correct numbers. But you can see the format was respected. When we asked for bullet points in HTML, that's what it did. And that's why we see this formatted in this email as bullet points. Otherwise, it would just be text directly. And that text is generated, of course. It's also here. If we go back to the Ask AI content variable, this was generated as well. But of course, then we have the HTML version right here as a structure, as a list, just as we asked for in the edit test activity. So in this particular case, in this particular example, all 4 Easley activities interacted in a way. We create our Easley AI features. We created the workflow with the workflow assistance tool. We showed off how we have the ability to perform these steps with code assistance, although in this case, we did not need it because it was taken care of directly by workflow assistance. And we also leveraged Ask AI and edit text to generate new content for us that was not readily available. We had raw data and we wanted human-like content that could be read by human and written by human. And that's what the Easley AI activities did for us. This is a good example of how to integrate the different tools and to use and leverage the different tools in Easley AI for your use cases. And this is our demo for today. Of course, we have a couple more examples that we can show in a moment, but this is our main demo for today. I don't know if...
Very nice. Even I like the simplicity of the building, even for us that maybe don't know code or anything. We can just, everywhere we can just use our own words, and then we can also have these advanced code blocks also in the left. There's a lot of things that you didn't show us, but
of course.
Extremely impressive.
Of course, just as I mentioned before, like a power user, a more advanced user has the option to write JavaScript code directly on their bots, even bring in Python code if they have it. It's not native to the platform, but you can have it on a file and have your bot run it. But our goal is not to require these things. We don't want a basic starting user or somebody who's more like a citizen developer. We don't want them to need to go out and learn code or have to learn these technologies at all. If they have the process on their heads, if they know what they want the bot to do, they should be able to request that in natural language and get at least a working template, something that is a good percentage of the way there. Of course, we will want to keep improving this solution to keep adding more support. Right now, for example, a weak point of Easley AI is GUI or UI-based automation. It does not have the ability to recognize objects, and it does not support the web automation and GUI automation activities, and that's something that we'll be actively working on in the future. But if you're working with data that's already stored on your machine, that's already in Excel files, in CSV files, on emails, or already accessible in your machine, then you will be able to generate your structures with and your workflows with the workflow assistance. And we hope that you as users will test this out, give us feedback, tell us what's working for you, what's not working, how many time you're saving with this. If you're not saving time, why not? This is very, very useful for us. This is great feedback for us. So just to wrap up my side of today, I wanted to mention that if you go here to the ElectroNeek homepage and click right here and see plans, you will see, just as Anders mentioned before, that you have access to the Community Edition, which is our free edition that includes all of these features that we saw today, and you're free to start using them right away and start creating, start testing out the workflow assistance feature, the code assistance feature, these AI features. So we expect that you guys do this and we test it out and tell us, how is this working for you? Is it useful to you? Are there any additional AI features that you can think of that would be great for us? And of course, as you can see here, we've also added other online pricing that is more fit for individual developers or users and for smaller teams. So that's also available here and can be bought online directly. It's on the pricing page. So I also wanted to mention that. That's something that we added recently. And of course, for a more custom built plan and something more fit to your specific needs, you can always talk to us, and we can get you on a path to building a specific package for your needs, to go on a trial, to test that out. So we'll be glad to talk to you guys about that. But of course, Community Edition, completely free, and you can get started with it right away.
Very nice, even. And yes, again, we will mention that you can get started for free. Just use the community version. You can build everything, use the AI tool. And Tara says, cool use case. Thanks for sharing. So kudos to you, Even. Thanks a lot for joining here. There will be more live sessions held in the past. Well, then they are not live, but you can find them by clicking the video links in the description below. And also, I'll post a link again to get this community version for free. Either the QR code or it's in the chat. Thanks for everyone watching. Thanks to you, Even, for showing up and spending your precious time with us.
Thank you, Anders. Thank you, everyone who joined, and especially you, Anders. Thank you for your time and for all these great sessions that we were able to have. I think we covered pretty much everything that makes the ElectroNeek platform special. So I recommend that everyone that didn't check out the previous videos also take a chance to do that. But yeah, especially thank you to you for giving us this space.
Great. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.